Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to sections of descriptive statistics. I am Mustafa Kamal Abdurrahman, teacher assistant at Department of Insurance Statistics and Mathematics. This is Chapter 6, Linear Correlation. In this section, inshallah, we talk about very important points. The first one is correlation coefficient properties. In general, correlation measures the direction and the strength of relation between two variables, say x and y. The sign of correlation coefficient determines the direction of relationship between two variables, whatever direct or indirect. So, if the sign of correlation coefficient is positive, then the relation is direct. But if the sign of correlation coefficient is negative, then the relation is indirect. While the value of correlation coefficient determines the strength of relation between two variables, whatever weak or intermediate or strong. In addition, we talk about correlation coefficient types that according to the types of variables or according to the level of measurement of data. So, in nominal variables, we use phi coefficient and Kramer's coefficient. We use phi coefficient if one of nominal variables have two categories or have two faces, while in Kramer's coefficient V, we use this coefficient or correlation coefficient or Kramer's coefficient if both nominal variables have more than two categories or have more than two faces. In ordinal variables, we use Spearman rank correlation coefficient RS. In quantitative variables, we use Pearson's correlation coefficient R. And we must know the graph of scatter plot and how you can use it to determine the types of relation between two variables, of the strength and the direction of the relationship between two variables. In final, we use Microsoft Excel to graph the scatter plot and to find the Pearson correlation coefficient. Choose the correct answer. Number 1, a coefficient of correlation is computed to be negative 0.19. Means that at first we say that the correlation measures the direction and the strength of the relationship between two variables. So in quantitative and ordinal data, the correlation coefficient takes the values between -1 to 1. If the correlation coefficient is positive, then the relation is direct. While if the sign of correlation coefficient is negative, then the relation is indirect. While the value of correlation coefficient determines the strength of relation between two variables. So, if the value of correlation coefficient is between 0 and 0.25, then the relation is direct weak, a weak direct relation between two variables. if the correlation coefficient is between 0.25 and 0.75, then the relation is intermediate direct relation between two variables. طيب, if the relation between two variables is between 0.75 and 1, then the relation is strong. طيب, if the correlation coefficient is equal to 1, then the relation is perfect correlation between two variables. And if the sign of correlation coefficient is negative, then the relationship is indirect. While the value of correlation coefficient determines the strength of the indirect relation between two variables. If equal the relation coefficient between or is between 0 and negative 0.25, then we say the relation is weak indirect between two variables. While if the relation is between negative 0.25 and 0.75, then the relation is said to be intermediate indirect between two variables. While if the relation is between negative 0.75 and negative 1, then the relation is strong indirect between two variables. So in this example, on this question, on this point, the correlation coefficient equal to negative 0.19. Negative indirect correlation between two variables. 19 strong. But then the correct answer is the relation between two variables is strong and negative, or is strong and indirect between two variables. So C, it is correct answer. Which of the following correlation coefficient measures only the strength of relation between two variables? In nominal data, we use phi coefficient and Kramer's coefficient. And the value of correlation coefficient is between 0 and 1. 0 and 1, not negative. So, in nominal data, or nominal variables, the correlation coefficient is between 0 and 1 only. So, it always positive and direct relation between two variables. While the value of correlation coefficient determines the strength between two variables, the strength of relationship between two variables. If the relation between two variables is between 0 and 0.25, then the relation is weak. If the value of correlation coefficient is between 0.25 and 0.75, then the relation is intermediate. While if the value of correlation coefficient is between 0.75 and 1, then the relation is strong. So in this point, which of the following correlation coefficient measures only the strength of relationship between two variables? This is happen only in nominal data, and we use Kramer coefficient and phi coefficient. So the correct answer A and B together. Number 3, if you calculate R and you find the R equal 1.23. This means that we say that in ordinal variables and quantitative variables, the correlation coefficient is between -1 to 1. So if R equal 1.23, then there are incorrect or missing computations. So the correct answer D, correlation coefficient can't have this value. Number 4, if the relation is perfect negative, the correlation coefficient equal perfect 1, يبقى correlation coefficient equal 1, negative, then correlation coefficient negative 1. Correct answer B. Number 5, if the two variables are independent, then correlation coefficient equal 0. If the correlation coefficient equals 0, then there is no correlation between two variables or the variables are independent. Number 6, if the correlation coefficient equal negative 0.85, the coefficient of determination equal R square. So we squared this value. Then R square equal R negative 0.85 to power 2. Then the correct answer is D. Number 7, correlation coefficient that is used to determine the relation between nominal variables. We say that phi coefficient and Kramer coefficient. Then the correct answer is D. Number 8, which of the following used to determine the relation between quantitative variables? Quantitative variables, we use Pearson correlation coefficient. The correct answer C. Number 9, if you study the relation between marital status and smoking variables. Marital status have 3 sides or 3 faces: single, married, divorced. And smoking have 2 sides: no smoke and smoke. Which of the following is appropriate correlation coefficient? This is nominal data, and one of variables is smoking have 2 faces: no smoke and smoke. So the appropriate correlation coefficient is phi coefficient. Number 10, the correlation coefficient whose value is always positive and measures the strength of relation only between 2 variables. This is in nominal data, and the appropriate correlation coefficient in this case phi coefficient and Kramer's coefficient. So the correct answer A and B together. Number 11, the sign of correlation coefficient has no meaning and doesn't measure the direction of relation between the 2 variables in the case of. This is occur only in nominal variables, and the appropriate correlation coefficient is phi correlation coefficient and Kramer's correlation coefficient. Number 12, to find the relation between 2 nominal variables, one of them consisting of 2 faces or 2 categories, which of the following is appropriate correlation coefficient? In nominal data and one of variable have only 2 faces, then we use phi coefficient. Correct answer number D. 13, to find the relation between 2 nominal variables, both variables contain more than two faces or more than two categories. Which of the following is the appropriate correlation coefficient? The correct answer is B. In nominal data and both variables contain more than two faces, then we use Cramer coefficient. Questions from 14 to 17. In a study of a relation between the gender and the opinion of political issues. Genders consist of two faces, male, female, and political issues consist of three faces, agree, neutral, disagree. A random sample of 200 observations was drawn, and we found that chi-square equal to 18. Number 14. What is the type of variables in a given question, gender and political opinion? This variables is normal variables. Correct answer A. 15. What is the appropriate correlation coefficient to determine the relation between the two variables, gender and political opinion? This is normal variables, then, and one of the variables have only two faces, so the appropriate correlation coefficient is phi coefficient. Correct answer number B. Number 16. What is the value of correlation coefficient between two variables? The correlation coefficient or phi correlation coefficient equal the formula phi equal square root chi square divided by n. This formula given in exam and the chi square given in exam. We substitute and find the phi coefficient equal 0.3. 17. Interpret the coefficient value. Phi equal 0.3 means that the relation between two variables is weak. Correct answer B. Questions from 18 to 21. In a study of a relation between a region and opinion of one of political issue variables. A region consists of 5 phases: Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, urban governorates, and foreign governorates, and the opinion of political issues: agree, neutral, disagree. A random sample of 200 observations was drawn, and we found that chi square equals to 260. Number 18. What is the type of variable in the given questions? A region and the political opinion. This is normal variables. So the correct answer D. Number 18. What is the appropriate correlation coefficient to determine the relationship between two variables, region and political opinion? This is a normal. This is nominal variables, and the both variables have more than two faces. So the appropriate corresponding correlation coefficient is Cramer's coefficient. The correct answer number C. Number 20. What is the value of the correlation coefficient between two variables? The Cramer's coefficient V. This is a formula given in exam, and chi square given in exam. N number of observations 260. Many A minus 1 or B minus 1. The number of faces for the first variable minus 1, and the number of faces of second variables minus 1. The number of faces of first variable is 4, minus 1 equals 3, and the number of faces for the second variable is 3, minus 1 equal 2. The minimum is equal 2. By substituting in the formula, we find the correlation coefficient of Cramer's coefficient V equal 0.18. So the correct answer number D. The relation between two variables can be explained as V Cramer's coefficient equal 0.18. So the relation is strong correlation or strong relationship between the two variables. The correct answer number C. At end, thank you very much. See you soon. Goodbye.